Hey there, dear viewers. Welcome to Obsessed with Werewolves. I'm so glad you're here because I know you, like me, have a passion for all things werewolf. From their captivating tales to their mysterious nature, we're going to explore it all. So, let's dive right in and satisfy our obsession together. Opaline. The next morning, Lykaon wakes me up early so we can go. He tells me to dress warm since I won't be shifting on this journey. I dress in a long-sleeve shirt, a sweatshirt, sweats, and heavy socks to go into my combat boots. I put my hair into a braid and let it fall over my back before putting on a beanie and going downstairs to where Kaelin was in the kitchen waiting for us. He slid over a plate of pancakes and the syrup and shouted at my mate, who was in his office, to hurry up. When my mate came down, he was only wearing shorts, ready to shift at any time. I took in his ABS and muscles before fully concentrating on my meal before I started drooling. I never really get to see his ABS because he always has a shirt on per my request. Today, though, it seems like he could care less and strides up to me to kiss my temple before grabbing his own plate and wolfing his food down. In 15 minutes, we were outside and the two men strip then shift while I stand in the cold putting on my coat. When they're finished, Lykaon brushes up against my leg and I rub under his chin. How long will it take? Last time, it took all day and half the night. For once, I can hear his reply in my mind. A couple of hours with a stop at the halfway point. If there is any problem that you might have, let me know. Okay? Okay? I say and carefully climb onto his back. Wrap your arms around my neck and lay down so the wind isn't too harsh. He instructs. I do and he licks my hands before taking off. I bury my face in his fur and hold on tight with all limbs, pressing my legs tighter against his ribcage, though he doesn't seem to mind. The muscles in his body work tirelessly, moving in ways I had never noticed in my own wolf's body. It was invigorating and soothing to feel him beneath me. I feel his heartbeat steadily faster the longer he pushes himself. His neck bobs up and down as he runs, and his warmth seeps into my body. Are you okay? Are you okay? Baby. I hum a response, not willing to lift my head or use my mind. I hear a deep rumble from in his chest that might be a chuckle. You're so warm. Now, are you glad you got to ride on my back? I still want to run. I say and hold tighter. Soon, baby. Soon. An hour later, Lykaon slows to a stop and lets me off to stretch while he and Kaelin make sure we're safe. After 5 minutes, I feel ready to go again and get back on. He runs into the sunshine, darting past trees and jumping over holes. It only takes another half hour or so to get to my family's pack border. Both wolves slow down and I sit up and watch the trees pass slowly and the pack appear. We were behind my parents' house to where the stalls are. Considering, I didn't need it. It made no difference since Lykaon and Kaelin shifted wherever and whenever they wanted. It didn't bother me as much anymore as long as they warned me first. When we reached the porch, I got off my mate's back and stood aside while they found something to dress in before knocking. I kept close to Lykaon, who had his arm on my shoulders, resting my head on his chest. When the door opened, my mother came out with a bright smile. You made it. Lykaon smiled down at her. We certainly did. Luna Sellen. Opaline was very excited to see everyone here. My mother opened her arms for me and I was let go to embrace her. Your mate told us you were doing better, but we were still worried. How are you, dear? I'm fine. I just can't shift for a while. I say honestly. I pull away and go back to my mate. My mother smiles at Kaelin. Beta, glad to see you again. You too, Luna. From behind her, Jacques appeared. Hey, it's my old sister come by to say hello. I roll my eyes as he steps around my mother and crosses his arms. So, tell me, Opal, where do we race to first? We don't. I hold up my hand. Not for a while. He scowls. Well, looks like I'll just have to settle for a good old teasing. Shut up. Jacques can find the alpha and beta something they can wear without sinking their waist so tight. My mother scolds. Jacques holds his hands up and walks away. Lykaon kisses my head and asks my mother, where is Alpha Merle? Suddenly, my mother and Kaelin stiffen and glance around. I furrow my brows. He's with some of his men right now. My mother informs and glances at me. He'll be ecstatic to hear his daughter is safe and sound. He better be. Lykaon hisses. What's going on? I ask him as we walk into the house. Your father is someone who overly protects those he thinks he still owns. What do you mean? Luna. Opaline and I are going up to her room so she can take her stuff off. Is that all right? He asks. My mother turns and smiles. Yes, though there is not a bit of furniture in there anymore. That's fine. Lykaon leads me to my room and shuts the door behind us, locking it. I look at him with confusion as he sighs and closes his eyes. Your family visited at the hospital. Did they see me? I ask hesitantly. He shakes his head and comes up to me. My pack has rules that respect the privacy of coupled mates. If the mate doesn't want anyone to see their loved one, then it is their choice. The mate is the person who will be the one who is the most worried because he or she cannot stop going insane and having the worst thoughts. They want to be sure their mate is safe before anyone coming in. I nod. I understand. He cups my cheek and softens his eyes. I'm glad. So, what is the problem? Your father almost went against the rules to reach you. He was willing to fight me right there and then in order to see you. When I told him to calmly leave and to let you decide, he threatened war against me and the pack. I gasped, shaking my head. Lykaon leaned closer and kissed me, holding me close. I won't let it happen. Opaline, I won't let him hurt you like that. What about Jacques and my mother? They understood. They accepted. He whispered. Don't worry, baby. I won't let anything happen to me or the pack. Or you. We'll be fine. How does Kaelin know? I had to keep him with you while I dealt with them. He offered to go in my place, but I declined and told him to watch you. Everything will be fine, though. I nod and step closer to let him hold me for a while in silence. When a knock sounds at the door, we still don't pull away and I don't want to. The knocks get harder before Lykaon sighs and goes to unlock it. When he opens it, Rona is standing there. Lykaon looks a little confused, but I smile. Rona? Opaline. How are you? Who are you? My mate asks. I'm her brother's mate. Rona. Lykaon looks at me with raised brows. I shrug and walk up to the girl. What's up? Alphamaro requested to see you. Opaline. Great. I say and grab Lykaon's hand to pull him with me. But Rona stops me and glances at my mate before looking at me with sympathy. Max Spidey. My faded mate. White splashed around me and my wind spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. He wants to see you alone. Opaline, your mate can't come. Lykaon pulls me back against his front, making me gasp, as he glares at Rona. If she wants me there, I will go. I will not put my mate in an uncomfortable situation. He is her father. Rona hisses. Don't talk to me like that. Lykaon growls, making me feel small. Show us too where the alpha is. And respect my mate's wishes. To her credit and stupidity, Rona stands her ground. I don't think that's a good idea. Lykaon is about to let out words that are probably going to make me either laugh or cry. But Jacques, thankfully, pulls Rona away from us. The alpha is in the living room. Jacques. My brother grabs her hand and pulls her away into a different room. I stare into space until I feel Lykaon slowly turn me to face him. Hey, are you okay? He asks softly, his eyes searching my body and face. My voice won't work and he looks more concerned. Opaline, it's okay. Tell me, baby. My body starts shaking and I can't find anything to say. I step closer to him, just wanting to feel safe again. Lykaon, I want to go home. Did I scare you? I shake my head. I want to go home with you and Kaelin. Baby, we just got here 10 minutes ago. If you want, we can go home tomorrow morning. That's Spidey, my faded mate. White splashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I want to go down to the cellars. I whisper, grabbing his shirt in my fist. I need to see if she's all right. Please. I can't see my father right now. Just let me do this. That's fine. Opaline, Lykaon kisses me, his arms tightening. Tail in, I will follow you down. But stay a little way away from where she is. Okay. I nod, pulling back. I wipe my face and look up into his gray eyes. I just can't deal with my father. I can't, Opaline. He hisses, making me jump. That is fine. Do what you need. I won't stop you. I smile small for him and nod. He cups my face and kisses my lips gently. Just calm down. Baby. I'm still here. I know. I whisper. Come on. Kale is waiting for us. He takes my hand and leads me out of the room like on. Opaline leads me and Kaelin down to the cellars without meeting anyone along the way. Kaelin gives me questioning looks from time to time, but doesn't say anything, and I don't offer. I don't have much to go on anyways. My mate continues to hold my hand tightly, staying close beside me. I'm not sure if she is truly scared of something she isn't telling me, or if it's the bond that makes her want to keep me close. I'm okay with it either way, but it makes me more alert on her safety all the same. It's been 5 minutes down in the dark and cold cellars when she finally stops and turns to us. Can you stay here? Now what's going on? Opaline, Kaelin asks with suspicion. My mate looks at me for help, but I can't explain any of this. She steps back away and looks down at the floor. I just need to do something. Stay here and I'll be back in a few. Opaline, Kaelin. I warn. He looks at me with hard eyes. Let her go. Opal smiles at me before turning and walking away. Kaelin turns to me. What the hell is going on? Remember the girl you saw her with when we first came down here? I ask. Yeah. Why, that's what she's doing. I cross my arms. Did you see her? No. It was too dark and Opaline was blocking my view. Kaelin's eyes and gives me a sympathetic look. You think she's about to do something again? No. I think we need to know who that girl is and what she is doing here. Opaline said she was hiding from something or someone. I want to know who. I want to know why my mate risked her life for a girl who is hiding in her family's cellars. Well, go after her. I shake my head. No, I'll go later. In my wolf form. If anything, I should be able to see her and get close enough to shift and talk to her. We'll see. Kaelin's eyes. 5 minutes later. Opaline runs back and into my arms. She isn't crying, so I assume everything is all right. But I do look over her just to be safe. Afterwards, the three of us walk back up and into the kitchen where lunch is being served. Selin looks over us but says nothing as we sit down together. Only smiles when she sees her daughter start going back and forth with her brother. It's when her father comes and that all goes quiet. Opaline is holding my hand as we try to remain normal, but it's squeezing very hard as if she's terrified of what's to come. I squeeze back gently and she relaxes a little. Merle sits down at the head of the table right beside her. Her conversation with Jacques stops as they look at each other. I can feel the tension and want to get her out of here, but can't. I'm not in familiar territory now and I can't fight her battles for her. Selin breaks the silence by clearing her throat and saying, I hope you don't mind. Lykaon. But it's simple sandwiches today. I smile. Fine with me. Luna. This seems to break the staring contest and Opaline turns to me with a strained smile. Do you think we could go see the children later? Sure. Just remember no roughhousing. Okay? She nods and pulls my hand into her lap, holding it firmly between her own. I lean close to her ear and whisper, Relax. Baby. Everything will be fine. We'll get out of here after the meal. Just stay calm. I feel her rest her head on my shoulder and take a shaky breath. I need air. Lykaon. I pull back and take my hand out of hers, only to pull her into my lap. She seems content with this and wraps her arms around my neck, but still turning her head so she can watch the proceedings. I grab a bit of sandwich and put it up to her lips eat. She looks up into my eyes and smiles, then opens her mouth. I put a little in there and let her bite down before putting the rest in my own mouth. Jacques talks to Kaelin and Rona while the two parents watch each other as well as their daughter, either because this was getting awkward or because the silence was just too heavy. Jacques stands, scraping his chair on the floor. For goddess's sake. Mouth Spritey. My hated mate. White scratched around me and my wheels spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Merle and Selin look at him in surprise. Opaline isn't dying. Father, you can stop acting like you're planning Alpha Lykaon's death. Because it isn't happening. He kept her safe and she is healing as best as she can right now. Just let it go. A little awed by her brother's speech, Opaline sat up a little. Rhoda continued eating as if nothing was happening. But the other two glanced at each other, then at me and my mate before Merle said, "Know your place. Jacques, you know why I want to kill him. Because of his rules. So what? She is here now." Now Merle glares at his son. "She is here. But her family was not allowed to see her in the hospital. You were not allowed to see your own sister when she was needing us most. I will only say this once more. I say carefully, keeping both arms wrapped around Opaline. My pack has rules that everyone must follow. Just because you are not part of my pack does not mean you get the privilege to do whatever you want, whether on Alpha. I respect your rules of your pack. You can respect my rules of my pack. My daughter was in the fucking hospital," Merle shouted. Opaline started shaking, her arms tightening. She was about to kill my beta. I growl, pointing at Kaelin while still glaring at Merle. She was fucking panicking. They had to sedate her to get her to calm down. Do you think you'd want your mate's family to see that? At least my mate would have let my family in if they requested it. I roll my eyes and look at Jacques. When you are Alpha, I will make a truce with you. I can see it is not wanted now by the current Alpha, so I won't try. Lykaon, get her out of here. Kaelin growled into my head. I looked down to see Opaline crying in fear. Her eyes glazed over. Shit. I hiss and get up, carrying my mate bridal style. I go outside and set her down near the stalls, cupping her face. Opaline, hey, she grabs my wrist in her good hand and digs her nails into my skin. Lykaon. I lean closer, making her focus on me. Hey, baby. It's all right. Breathe. Opal, you can do it. Breathe for me. Her shaking continues, but she takes short, shallow breaths. Her eyes wild. Hey, everything will be all right. Just let it go. Baby girl. She shakes her head, trying to look around but stops when she realizes I won't let her. I can't. Lykaon. I feel like I might do something. Something I shouldn't. What do you mean? Like in the hospital. Her breathing gets faster and I don't know what to do. Like with Kaelin. Lykaon. I don't want to. Come here. I say softly and pull her back into my arms. Calm down. Baby. Standing. I start walking into the forest. Follow me. I order Kaelin. When I get to a certain spot I like, I sit down again and curl around Opaline so my body hides hers as much as it can. Opaline, talk to me. Her face appears and I feel her body slow. It's trembling and her breathing is going back to normal. When I brought the girl home, I had been gone for hours and my father acted the same way. But it was worse because I was deaf and I had no idea what he was saying, much less what he was mad about. He threw things and it was Jacques who helped me find shelter and comfort away from his rage while Mother calmed him down. How did you become so good at lip reading? I asked softly. The doctors and my brother. It was a game we'd play since I was too weak for anything else. Kaelin arrived, staying some distance away to give us privacy, then making sure we're all right. I kept my gaze on my mate. Has your father done this since then? She shook her head. Does it remind you of them? No, not all of them. Her voice trails off. Closing her eyes, she takes a deep breath. Just the one rogue who hurt me the worst. Do you know what he looked like? Black Wolf. And his human was huge. Opaline blinked up at me. Her celeste eyes glazed over in memory of the past. He had green eyes as a human, tan skin, and dreadlocks. Dreadlocks? I asked curiously, though Kaelin turned slightly as if surprised and curious to hear more. Sitting up, Opaline nodded, showing me the length with her hands. He had black facial hair too and his teeth were grimy. She paused, shuddering a little. Lykaon. He seemed like he was having fun with trying to kill me. He was smiling a lot. It's okay. Baby. That Spidey. My fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wings spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. In my mind, I knew that nothing was okay. Whatever she just told me was not okay. Is it the same person I'm thinking of? Kale in Ask Venomous Why. I believe so. But we'll have to wait to talk about this until later. Opaline sniffs and wipes her face, then takes a deep breath. Can we see the children now? She asks softly. I nod. Of course. We can. I help her up, then glance at Kaelin before following my mate back to the house and over to the playground where the children were playing. She let go of my hand as soon as the children and her met eyes. Then she knelt and gave them each an individual hug. I stepped back and sat on a bench with Kaelin. Vuk is to blame for all of this if my suspicions about the girl in the cellars is correct. And how are we going to prove that? Kaelin asks. I shake my head. I don't know. But we better figure it out fast. Aaron trusts VUK almost as much as he trusted Maybelle. And if the girl in the cellars isn't Maybelle, then VUK is still to blame for my mate's suffering. I won't rest until he's dead. I hiss. Kaelin crosses his arms. I think it's time we call all the alphas together to help with this crime. I nod and stand up. I'm going to talk to Merle civilly. Keep an eye on Opaline and call me if something goes wrong. Walking back to the house, I keep my expression void of any emotion as to not show how this is affecting me. Opaline was attacked by Beta VUK of Vengeful Starback and is the possible reason for Aaron's madness. Suddenly, one sign in the house. I change directions and go straight to the cellars, needing to know who this girl is. I walk, remembering the path Opaline had taken us, then follow her somewhat faint scent to the end where a single door is waiting to be opened. Shifting, I scratch at the door until I'm able to get through. A shrill scream causes me to jump and flatten my ears. Out of nowhere, a girl comes swinging with a metal rod in both hands, swinging it viciously towards my head. Rolling, I jump out of the way and turn around. My eyes have to blink a few times to understand what they're looking at. A woman stands there, a little older than Opaline herself, while there is a baby lying nearby. Both have golden hair, and baby is chubby and wrapped in blankets, but both pale and dirty. The woman one steps in front of the child, rolling fiercely. Get out. My ears flick up to catch her words and I look around before going into a corner, picking up a pair of pants, then shifting into my human form. Quickly, I dress and turn back around, letting her see me. She gasps and steps back, now just terrified. Hey, calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. I say softly. I'm a friend. Who are you? Lykaon from Blue Oasis. I just came here to talk. Her eyes narrow. Get out. Lykaon. I put my hands up but shake my head. I'm not leaving. I look down at the child. Who's the father? None of your business. She hissed. I look back at her and sigh. Okay. Look, I understand you don't trust me, but I'm Opaline's mate. You know Opaline. She's the one helping you stay safe. I trail off, making sure she isn't about to strike. I know what happened 3 years ago, because she was there. I know who hurt the both of you. So do I. But that means nothing when I can do nothing about it. I can do something about it. I say carefully. All I need from you is to come home with me where you and the baby can live freely under my protection. She shakes her head. No, I'd rather stay here, in dank cellars where your child can get sick and die. I ask with a raised eyebrow. The woman stiffens and glances at bundle of blankets. Opaline can help you in my pack since she no longer lives here and you'd have to fend for yourself. I won't tell anyone who you are or who the child is, but I want the whole story. The woman relaxes her grip on the rod before throwing it away and picking up her child. I can't go back. Ever. Why, she looks up at me with sad green eyes. He'll kill me and the child before my husband has the chance to even lay eyes on us. All because he doesn't have a mate and would rather have me than wait for his own. He does it without my husband knowing, without being caught. Tears stream down her face. He broke the bond, so now he thinks I'm dead. I put my hands down and slowly walk over. He also will think my mate killed you when he sees her wolf. He can't. She cried. That girl has done more for me than I could have hoped for. She's innocent. Wrapping my arms around her with the baby between us. I pull her to my chest and whisper, I know she's innocent, and that she has done a lot for you. So, why don't you do something for the child in your arms and come with us? We're going home tomorrow night. Then she is going to become Luna and have a say in what happens to the females of our pack. He'll be there, though. If I show myself, you need to show yourself to your husband at some point. I say sternly. He's the only other person who can and will help you. You are the only one he will listen to. Opaline, as I'm playing with the children, I see Lykaon head towards the house alone, leaving Kale in on the bench. I'm not worried exactly, just aware that he's no longer near. Tasha, the girl whom I met the day of Lykaon's leaving here, came up and asked if we could talk. I hadn't minded and went to sit on the swings with her. She was very talkative and said her mother was very grateful for helping her find her daughter. I merely brushed it off, but smiled at the girl and said it was no problem. Tryon also came up to embrace me in a hug, chanting his thanks for saving him. He also gave me a necklace made of string and beads as a gift. Slipping it on, I told him to go run and play while I took a break. Watching him run away into the playground, I walked over to Kaelin and sat down beside him. You can go do something. You know, I asked him. He chuckled. Then I'd lose you in the sea of wolves and never be able to find you, which means you could be in possible danger and it'd be my fault. You don't need to watch me. Kaelin, it's my job to protect you. Opaline, I sighed and slumped back. It doesn't have to be. As Beta, I am the first Lykaon boast to help protect you in the pack. As Luna, you are the heart of the pack. What keeps us all together? The glue. So I asked. He looks at me. So it means you are well loved. I shrug and sigh. Your pack barely knows me. Our pack? He corrects. Why do you all of a sudden not want to be Luna? I do, but I don't like anyone hovering that much. I pause, then add, except him. Kaelin smirked. He isn't always going to be around you to protect you, no matter how much you'd want that. He gives me the privilege of watching you, protecting you, helping you if need be. I bite my tongue and think about my response. And then there's the others. Kaelin, there are people around. You don't have to watch if there are other people around. Do you? Yes, I do. There are only children right now. And not everyone is as strong as I or Lykaon. A throat cleared behind us and we turned to see Jacques there, rubbing his neck. Father wants to see you. Opal, I'm not sure if she's ready for that. Kaelin hisses. Jacques looks at him. I'm only obeying my alpha's orders. I don't know if that's a good idea. Jacques, I say softly. Please, Opaline, just talk to him. He begs. I look at Kaelin. Okay? And now Kaelin says darkly. You aren't going. I'm not sure if I will be able to avoid him much longer. What else am I supposed to do? Kaelin, wait for Lykaon. Jacques says, making us look at him. No one else is allowed, especially not him. I go to stand, but Kaelin grabs my arm no. Conflicted, I glance between the two and sigh. I must. Lykaon will be pissed. I slip my hand out of his and back away. Do I have a choice? He'll see me at dinner. I'll have to face him at some point. Do you not remember that you broke down in Lykaon's lap because of their argument? Do you not remember your father wants to kill Lykaon? I narrow my eyes. That will not happen. Kaelin, my father. He's going to do something stupid and hurt you in the process. If something happens, I'll mind link you. I don't want to do this. Kaelin, but... He stood up and took hold of my shoulders. Opaline, he may be your father, but he isn't your alpha anymore. I know. Then if you don't want to go, then don't. This is why I'm hovering. To help in situations like this. And worse. I can understand if you don't want to go. Opaline, just say so. I glance at Jacques and back at my Beta. My heart was racing as I felt pulled into separate directions, but didn't know which was the right one. From the distance, I heard, Jacques. My brother flinches and looks at me with plea in his eyes. Please. Opaline. Something about the way he looked at me made me snap. I pulled away from Kaelin and nodded. Opaline. Kaelin hissed in a warning voice. Mind link. I whisper and follow Jacques away and back to the house. It was a few minutes before we made it to my father's office and Jacques stopped. I'm sorry. Opal. I nod. It's fine. It was bound to happen. Sign. He opened the door and ushered me in. My father was sitting at his desk with a hard expression on his face. He didn't soften them like I thought he might, but only seemed to harden them further. Son, stand outside the door until we're finished. Allow no one passage. I silently begged my brother not to leave, but he did, shutting the door with a soft click. Now, I wasn't sure to run or scream, so I stood there silent, hugging myself. How are you? Opaline. I shrug. Fine. Your hand. I shrug again, feeling like a child who might have done something wrong. But I didn't know what. How are you liking Lykaon's pack? It's good, I say, looking out the window. This was really awkward. Do you agree with Lykaon's rules about not allowing family to see their loved one unless the maid approves? I respect them, and don't see the harm in it. I whisper. We weren't allowed in to see you. Max Brady, my fated mate. White scratched around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. But he let you know what was going on, so I still don't see the harm. Opaline. Lykaon hisses through the mind link. Why aren't you with KLN? My father requested me. I say hesitantly. Why didn't you wait for me? Because my brother was getting anxious and I felt bad. I hear him sigh, then nothing at all. My father stares at me. How would you feel if Jacques was in the hospital and the only one allowed to see him was Rona, and she didn't allow you in? I would understand. I'd only hope he was doing better and Rona kept me updated. I say honestly. My father growled fiercely and stood, walking around his desk towards me. You are my daughter, and I don't want you getting hurt and not being able to see you. I bit my lip. A knock sounded at the door. Max Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. My father roared. The door opened and I turned to see my mother there with Lykaon. When my mate locked eyes with me, I ached to run to him, but something was keeping me in place. My mother said, Why are you yelling? Max Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my room spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I don't like being interrupted, he hissed, but it wasn't harsh like earlier. Opal, why don't you go with Lykaon and show him the trails you took as a child now? I turned to my father and wrapped my arms around me. I need to finish here. Max Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my room spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. No, you don't. I looked up at her, but you don't need to stay here and get ridiculed for something that isn't your fault. Go with Lykaon. Lykaon held out his hand for me. It's okay. Opaline. My father seemed to seethe on the inside, but he said, Opaline, if he hurts you, why would I hurt my mate? My mate growled. My father ignored him. If he hurts you, daughter, you can come home. You're always welcome. I turn and face him, confusion in my eyes and determination in my voice. I am grateful for your offer, father, but if I'm to be Luna, then I'll have to be strong, which means not coming here for help of any kind. Lykaon has done nothing but help me since meeting him. It is not his fault my hand is broken, nor mine for trying to protect a friend. There is no need to give me a way out when I don't need one. My mother grabbed my shoulders from behind and pulled me towards her. Max Spidey, my fated mate. White splashed around me and my room spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. Opaline is strong. Don't underestimate her because of the past. I'm not, he hissed. She gave him a knowing look. They're mates. Darling, you saw how she held on to him at lunch. You see how he looks after her just like you do with me. My father glances at me and then Lykaon, and sighs, closing his eyes and relaxing his body. He seems to be taking deep breaths and thinking hard about something before nodding. Fine. I see what you mean. He looks at my mother and gives her a small smile, but she returns with one of her own. She walks over to him and wraps her arms around his body while he kisses her head. I'm sorry. I let out a breath I hadn't known I was holding before feeling Lykaon's presence at my back. He wraps his arms around me, clasping hands on my stomach before resting his head on mine and breathing in my scent deeply. I lean back into him and sigh. Contented. I feel him kiss my head and say, "My beautiful Luna." I smile softly and turn to embrace him properly, heading my face in his chest. I hear my father say, "Take care of my daughter, or there will be hell to pay." Don't worry, Alpha Opaline has my full attention every day for the rest of my life. I could still hear the anger in the background as my mate speaks, but he tries to sound polite in the way things have turned. Once she is Luna, she'll be protected by everyone in my pack, not just me. If I see one more, Marek Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my room spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. My mother hisses. My father sighs. Opaline. I turn to face him and see he's trying to be like the father I know. Forgive me. I nod, then run into his arms. He hugs me tight, my mother getting behind me to trap me between them while I notice Lykaon is awkwardly standing alone. Pulling back, I try to go back to him, but then Jacques appears and tackles me into another hug. Don't leave me, he dramatically cries. I roll my eyes and pat his back awkwardly. You'll be fine, brother. Besides, we aren't leaving yet. I look to Lykaon. Are we? He shakes his head. The plan still remains the same. Tomorrow night. Jacques straightens and turns to my mate, still holding my shoulders. Then, you won't mind if I steal her away for a few hours. Lykaon narrows his eyes suspiciously. That's Brady, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I bite my lip and look away, but catch Lykaon glance at me and grin, just to catch up and give her a hard time. I mean, someone's got to tease her, right? My father chuckles and I see my mother shake her head. My mate, on the other hand, crosses his arms and doesn't let anything show. I need to talk with her first before letting your torment session begin. I gape at him, fully staring at him with my eyes wide and mouth open. He smirks. I'll bring her to you when I'm finished. My brother grins and turns back to me. See you soon, sister, he says and smacks a kiss on my cheek before going away. My parents walk around Lykaon and out the room as well, shutting the door behind them. Once I hear their footsteps fade, I cross my arms and glare at my mate, who laughs in return. How could you promise him such a thing? Men stick together, he says with a shrug and comes over to me. Besides, I saw you look away and heard your thoughts earlier. I know what you were thinking. I blush. You know nothing. I hiss and squeal when he lifts me onto my father's desk abruptly. Do you deny it? Dear Opaline, he asks, his voice husky, even on the desk. I still didn't come to eye level, so I looked up at him, yes. His eyes widened for a moment before shrugging. Shall I help you remember? Then, I paused and looked at him confused, unsure how he might do that. Seeing this, Lykaon smirked. Allow me to help you, Opaline. Then maybe things will go more smoothly for you. What do you? I gasped as he pulled me to the edge of the desk and leaned down to kiss me. He kept one hand on my thigh as the other went behind my back to help him steady me as I leaned back with him over me. Lykaon. My voice trailed off as he kissed the corner of my mouth. It's okay, Opaline. I'm not taking you here. Not on your father's desk. I'd rather it be my own. The hand behind my back came out to cut my face. Do you trust me? He asked softly. I look up at him, meeting intense gray eyes. To do what? He smiled. Anything. Do you trust me to not harm you, or let harm come to you in any way? I scoff. That's not possible. Baby, anything is possible. Not if I'm wanting to protect you, I say and raise my brows at him. He frowns. Opaline, you don't need to protect me, but that's what mates do. They protect each other. I want to protect you. That's Spidey. my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wheels spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I want you safe. I want you to live your life fully. I furrow my brows at him. And live without you. He shrugs. I shake my head. No Opaline now. Lykaon. First KON. Now you. I don't want to live without you. Is that wrong? No, but I glare at him. My final answer is no. I don't care how strong you are. We stay together no matter what. He narrows his eyes. I can't believe you're arguing with me on this. I smirk and he sighs, shaking his head. Fine. Stay together no matter what. That means we protect each other, have each other's backs, work together to do what's necessary. I smile. Okay. After a moment of watching me, he smiles too. Deal. Lykaon. The next day was more relaxing than most. Opaline got to spend some more time with her brother as well as other time with the rest of the pack. Kale and I mainly rested since we had to travel and Opaline would be riding. I was okay with that. I was okay with her riding my back since I always knew where she was and felt her warm body hold on to me. I wasn't sure if she'd be able to sleep on my back. But we will see. I at least knew she had enough trust in me to carry her to our destination, even if she wants to run. Kale occasionally went and checked up on his Luna, then reported back to me on her actions. Sometimes, she'd see him and smile, pausing whatever it was she was doing to watch him for a moment. Then when he started to leave, she'd resume. Once, it was around lunchtime, she told Kaylin to tell me to join her. I did so, earning an embrace and a kiss from my little mate. When we sat down to eat, she kept close, pulling her chair near mine until they were touching. I hadn't minded and kissed her temple, whispering how obvious she was being. This made her blush furiously. Her eyes glued to her plate of salad. Later that afternoon, I went down to see the golden-haired woman again. She was a little more compliant today and listened to the plan I had set. Her only sign of listening was a short nod of her head while looking down at her child who was asleep. I explained how Opaline was going to become Luna tomorrow evening and how she'd do everything in her power to protect the woman and the child. I also said that there was a room in my house she could sleep in until things settled down and she could find a place of her own on my land. Her eyes softened a little when I finished, and she told me she was ready to go when the time was right. So I left her, going to get ready myself. That evening, Opaline barely touched her food and just leaned against me. Her eyes closed and her breathing even. Kaylin chuckled when he saw just how out of it she was, and offered to hold her while I shift. I let him, and turned into my black wolf before he laid her on my back, wrapping her arms around my neck and her legs around my middle. I felt her shift her weight until she murmured something unintelligible and tightening her embrace to fall back asleep. When Kaylin was ready, I led him to the edge of the forest and waited a minute, looking back at the house. My friend was a little confused as to why we were waiting, but I told him we had extra people coming along. Hopefully, after a few minutes, I saw something move from the corner of my eye and turned to see another pair of eyes watching us warily. Slowly, I went up to her and gave a soft whine. Her ears picked up and our tail wagged softly before following me. Kaylin stared at the golden wolf and the little bundle in its jaws before I took off into the night, making him have to catch up. At first, I was worried the woman wouldn't be able to keep up the speed, but she did fine. Even with the wriggling bundle, we reached my home by dawn and had no troubles other than the she-wolf being hesitant entering another territory that wasn't my own or Opaline's family's. She didn't want to be found, and I understood that and reassured her that no one would find her yet. She was safe with me and Kaylin and we'd only be passing through. She looked around my territory with ears pricked forward and eyes glancing around, almost like Opaline when she first came. Kaylin was the first to shift, lifting off my mate so I could do so myself. I grabbed a pair of Opal's clothes and brought them out to the woman, kneeling down and handing her the cloth. She glanced down at our baby and I held out both arms, gesturing to her that I'd hold it while she got dressed. After another moment of hesitation, she complied and gently rested the baby in my arms before taking the bundle of clothes and darting into the house to dress. Behind me, Kaylin came out of the house and stood, watching me. Who was she exactly? You know who she is. There's no point in explaining it. Whose child is that? I stood and turned.
Rocking the baby softly while I looked up at him.
Her mates that he never got to meet. Kaylin's eyes narrowed before the woman came back out and came up to me, smiling softly as she took the baby. Thank you, Alpha. I shrugged and told her to follow me to her room, which was close to mine in case anything should happen. I didn't have a crib, so I hoped the bed would be good enough for now, at least until I could find one. The woman didn't seem to mind though as she went over to the bed and sat down, ignoring me while she started taking care of the baby's needs. I went to my room, dressed for bed, then climbed in beside Opaline, pulling her close and closing my eyes before falling asleep. I awoke to someone jumping on the bed and throwing themselves on top of me. I grunted as their elbow or knee caught my stomach. Before feeling lips on mine, my arms found their way around their waist and I opened my eyes to see Opal smiling down at me. I can't believe you brought her here, she hissed with the white. I had to, I say. I wasn't going to leave her and the child in the cold cellars when there's room here. She straddled my waist and looked down at me. When did you meet her and why? I met her the day before yesterday after you ran off to see the children and before your meeting with your father. I know I didn't listen to you. But I have my own instincts I listened to and they told me to go see her. Why she is someone important. I say simply. Opal and tilted her head to the side. She is. I nod. She told me you offered her shelter and protection for the both of them. I did. I also explained that you were becoming Luna and you'd fight for them. No matter what. She smiled again and kissed my lips. When she pulled back, I chuckled. Are you ready for tonight? Her nod was enthusiastic. I'm so excited. My heart did a flip at her words and I was the one who kissed her this time. After I got dressed, I went down to the kitchen to find the two women sitting at the table talking softly with one another, a few giggles escaping from their mouth. The woman saw me first and her tension alerted Opaline who spun around to see me. She whispered something in the woman's ear and walked up to me. I leaned back against the counter and smirked at my mate. Having fun. She shrugged and embraced me. She's the second true friend I've ever really had. Who was the first? She sighed, her arms tightening. Loop. I stared at her silently, wondering how close her and the boy was. We grew up together and he moved south. He still hasn't found his mate yet and wanted me to be it. But then you came along and... Her voice trailed off dreamily. Did you share the same affections? When I was a child, she whispered. We dated when I was 14, ended when I was 16, and he moved away. Becoming someone new. Her arms went about my neck and she looked up at me. But I never did anything with him. Not like you. I didn't like certain things when I was with him. And with you it's different how? I asked softly. Opaline shrugged. I never let anyone hold and carry me. Even when I was healing from the attack 3 years ago. I'd walk or push myself in a wheelchair before letting anyone, including my father, carry me. This somewhat surprised me. But then again, my mate did like to do things herself. I never sat on anyone's lap before. And no one has ever been able to calm me down before. Except Jacques. I thought about this for a moment before noticing the woman staring at us longing in her eyes. And this young lady you saved from rogues is your second friend? I asked softly. She nods. We used to talk about everything back in my other pack. She understood what it felt like to be alone and she was always a great listener. The woman has tears in her eyes before she looks away and quickly swipes them away. Opaline pulls back and grabs a bowl and some cereal. I watch as she sets them on the table near the woman then come back to the refrigerator. When she turns, she looks at me and at the drawer right behind me, then bites her lip in deep thought. I smirk. What's wrong? Opal. Thinking I hadn't noticed anything. She said, please move. I need a spoon for her so she can eat. I stood up straighter, but didn't move. She reached for the drawer, but I moved so my backside was in her way. She frowned and I crossed my arms. You may go ahead and get one. Baby, I'm not stopping you. I saw her blush color her cheeks and something flash in her eyes before she shrugged and came towards me. What I was not expecting was for her to set the milk down, place both her palms on my arm and push me sideways with a strength I didn't know she possessed. Smiling to herself, she found a spoon and walked away. While I stared wide, I'd wondering what just happened. A knock on the door prevented me from thinking long about it, and I went to answer it, finding Michael and Darian there. "What is it?" I asked. "And he requested your presence as soon as possible," Michael said nervously. "Everything is ready for the Luna ceremony," Darian announced. "All the alphas should be here by the middle of this afternoon." "Good. Keep Aaron away from this house as much as possible." Darian nodded and left. Michael shifted on his feet and I furrowed my brows at him. "What is wrong?" "Max, Spidey, my fated mate. Lights flashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. There is a problem with the patrol. Alpha." He looked around and gestured to go to my office. I ushered him in, told Opaline where I was going, then followed my man to the room and shut the door. He said, "Two men are dead." My eyes snapped to his. "Who couldn't drive even?" I cursed under my breath because there were some of my top men. "Who attacked?" "I'm not sure. Alpha, all we know for sure is that the attacker left a note for you," Michael said shakily and pulled out a folded piece of worn paper from his jacket pocket. I took the paper and unfolded it. "Alpha Lykaon, I have been to many places around the world, seen many things, and met many people. Ironically, the last place I ended up before approaching your pack borders was Greece. I met some wonderful people there of whom I am friends with, but there were two in particular that caught my eye. I have become quite close with your parents of recently. They're a cute couple and I would have never thought that the strongest alpha in your area was so kind to anyone as to give them some of his hard-earned money. But, what the hell? Right. Men are fickle creatures. Not to mention wolves. I'm getting lost in my reasoning for killing your men. So here it is. You have a special someone I would love to meet. Black hair. Beautiful blue eyes. Sound familiar. I want to see her and you alone tonight at sundown. If you deny my request, then your parents will both be as dead as those two oafs. I will meet at your west border near the little stream that will separate us. Sundown. Don't be late." "When were they attacked?" I asked through gritted teeth. "Early this morning," Michael answered. It wasn't clean either. I glared down at the paper in my hands. My parents were hurted in someone's capture, and they would be killed if I did not show up with Opaline alone. The problem was, not only would they be killed, but Opal would miss the ceremony. My rage built and Michael seemed nervous because I never had been so angry before. Not even when they kicked me out of the emergency room after Opaline's hand. "Lykaon," my mate said softly through the bond. I instantly relaxed and closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. "What is it?" "Baby." There was a knock on the door and then my friend ran upstairs to her room, saying she needed to hide. I opened the door and saw an alpha bear, saying he needs to talk to you and it was urgent. "What's his name?" A pause. Another pause. "He's from our east border, I guess. Show him to my office, please." I look at Michael and sigh. "We'll talk later." "Where is Kaelin?" "Watching the southern border." I nod and hear a knock. "Go help him." Michael nods and leaves, opening the door to Alpha, and Opaline. "Luna," he says, bowing his head. "Alpha." He walks around them and disappears down the hall. Long time no see," I say as way of greeting. "Same to you." Lykaon. I look over at Opaline. "Opaline, ZY has been an ally and friend of this pack for a very long time. You can't trust him." Opaline looks at the tall, dark man. ZY was a sight to behold. His dark hair and black skin made him intimidating more than most alphas. But his light brown eyes were soft and had wrinkles from smiling. He had a mate, but no heirs, so he's been taking as long as he can being an alpha to protect his pack. Since he is one of the wisest people around, he was strong to say the least. But his strength came from strategy, not violence. If he was going to take out an enemy, he'd always stay a step ahead of them and be ready, making the sad opponent wish they had thought thrice before daring him. My mate looked back at me with a small smile. "He's acceptable." ZY chuckled and walked in, sitting down on a chair. "Am I needed? Or can I go clean up from breakfast?" "You may go." "Opal." I smile as she closes the door and listen to her walk down the stairs, turning my attention to the alpha. My smile fades. You don't usually come here for emergencies, EY. Something must be wrong if you are coming to me for help. He nods. That emergency would be the UK. I stiffen. The UK, what is he doing near you? Scrounging. Max Brady. My faded mate. White squashed around me and I will spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. I've put as many men on patrol as I can without leaving the rest of my pack defenseless. But somehow he manages to get in and hurt someone. What do you mean? His eyes turn dark. If he's not going for children, he's going for a female who's already mated. He hasn't taken any female who's single. And no men. In fact, he's only taking female children and adults. No male. And the mate or father to each of these girls are some of my good best men. I don't know what to do and I'm not sure if Aaron isn't on it. Has your mate been targeted? Gwene is scared, but has not been targeted yet. I fear it's only a matter of time. Max Spidey, my faded mate. White splashed around me and my wounds spun with the beat of the heavy techno music the DJ was playing. He shakes his head. I need help. My beta has stayed to watch over the pack while we are here. But he has his own family to worry about. To daughters who love to play outside and spend evenings running with their mother in the forest. That can't happen now. And one has already tried sneaking out, putting herself in danger. I run a hand down my face and sigh. You and Gwene may take the bedroom near the stairs. I'm afraid there's not really anywhere else that's safer while you stay here. I look down, seeing the note Michael gave me earlier. How do you know it's the UK? I know his scent and he is the only other black wolf around this area. I haven't seen a rogue as black as you two. Although ZY was black, his wolf was a dark gray color, making him different from VUK and myself. Is there any warning of an attack? Screams, breaking glass or something. He shakes his head. There is nothing. The males wake up to find them dead with the only sign of blood being from the nose and ears. I furrow my brows. That's a little weird. ZY nods. Gwene suspects a poison that can only be taken in by the nose or through the skin. But how can that be when their mate is literally right there? Before I can answer, the door opens. I look up to see Opaline running and to hide behind me along with the woman who hides behind my couch, clutching the baby close to her chest. Both CY and I are glancing from the girls to each other until I turn to my mate and kneel beside her. What is wrong? Her eyes are wide with fear and her body is shaking uncontrollably. It's him. She hisses and crawls under my desk to sit in a ball with tears flowing down her cheeks. Thank you so much for joining me in this obsession with werewolves. I hope you've had a great time and can't wait to come back for more. Remember to subscribe, leave your comments, and share this passion with others. Until next time, keep being obsessed.